the sound. Hare Krishna. It sounds like something. Ma Vishnu Bhattaya Krishna Pritaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paskadgade Satarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Astadhara Satushi Shiman His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribol Slava Zavrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Garangi Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharne Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shigaro Shiuta Parakamalam Shigaram Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha, Hey Krishna Karna Sindho, Dinabando Jagapate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kanshena Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Prishubhanu Sudadevi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Panchakapa Tubhyasra, Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha, Patiranam Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, text 39. Eshate Vita Sankhye Buddhir Yoge Tvimam Shinu Buddhya Yukto Yaya Parata Karma Bandham Prahasyasi Eshate Vita Sankhye Buddhir Yoge Tvimam Shinu Buddhya Yukto Yaya Parata Karma Bandham Prahasyasi. Eshate Vihita Sankhye Buddhir Yogi Tvimam Shinu Buddhya Yukto Yaya Parata Karma Bandham Prahasyasi. Eshate Vihita Sankhye Buddhir Yogi Tvimam Shinu Buddhya Yukto Yaya Parata Karma Bandham Prahasyasi. Eshate Vihita Sankhye Buddhir Yogi Tvimam Shinu Buddhya Yukto Yaya Parata Karma Bandham Prahasyasi. Esha, all this, te, unto you, abhita, describe, sankhya, an analytical study, buddhi, intelligence, yoga, in work without fruit of result, to, but, imam, this, shinu, just here, buddhya, by intelligence, yukta, dovetailed, yaya, by which, partha, osana prita, karma bandham, bondage of reaction, prahasyasi, you can be released from. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thus far I've described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruit of results. Osana prita, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Purport. According to the Nirukti, or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail. And Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting, because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at the sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they were individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individuals, souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya, or in terms of the Nirukti dictionary, dictionary. This Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It's clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active, that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation, when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gravitatory illusion. And it's only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Shishasteham sadimam tvam papanam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga. Or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. This Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in the 10th chapter, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to the stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion and love. In that way, the devotee can reach him easily in the ever-blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the Buddhi Yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service to the Lord. And the word Sankhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sankhya Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not, therefore, misunderstand that the Sankhya Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya. Nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time. Nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddha Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They're all Bhakti Yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yoga pritagbala pravadantina pandita. Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga. Yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that Buddha Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness, in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, in working under the principles of Buddha Yoga, and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically, by the grace of the Lord. And thus his liberation is complete in itself, without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification, for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddha Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. Esha te bihita sankhye buddhir yogi tvanam shinu buddhya yukto yaparata karmabandham prahasyasi. Thus I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as explaining of working without fruit results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Long purport. Anyone remember what it said? And remember what chapter we're on? What book we're reading? What's that? Close. Namo Vishnu Varaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhute Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswatunde Vaye Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadhyade Siddhartha. As with everything in our philosophy, it's actually simple. He's summarizing the entire contents of the Bhagavad Gita in 72 verses. So he doesn't have much time to divide up our whole philosophy, especially progressively. But he started with the fact that this soul is different from the body. Now every single transcendentalist, whether the impersonalists or the devotees, they'll all agree that the soul is different from the body. Everyone starts from that point of view. Therefore, Sankhya Yoga Pritagbala Pravadanti Napandita. That there's really no difference in one sense between the Sankhya Yoga that's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Sankhya Yoga that is part of devotional service. They're both the same. Because before we can begin devotional service, it mentions that first we should realize that we're not this body. Does anyone remember that verse in Bhagavad Gita where it says that? Whereas the Bhagavad Gita said that before you can enter into devotional service, you first have to realize that you're eternal. Did you hear that before? What's that? No. That says, that's a little bit similar, but it's the method by which you realize you're eternal. It's kind of blended into that. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nishoshiti Nakankshiti Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Lavate Param. Before we can enter into pure devotional service, because we're doing bhajana kriya, bhajan service, worship, but kriya, practicing. First we have to give up hankering and lamentation. Hankering for what we don't have, and lamenting over what we lost. And then we can see all living entities as spiritual beings. Of course, it doesn't mean we give up our discrimination, who's in the mode of ignorance, who's in the mode of passion, who's in the mode of goodness, but ultimately we understand that these are external to the soul. The soul is eternal. The soul is actually supposed to be in the spiritual world. And he's supposed to be enjoying his own personal relationship with Krishna eternally. And with everyone else, of course, eternally. But somehow or another, we've come to this material world, and we've entered into different forms of life, some higher and some lower. There's a path to becoming higher, and there's a path to going lower. Therefore, one who understands that, then he tries to help people go higher, not lower. So that's beginning Krishna's instructions that the soul is eternal and the body is temporary. It doesn't matter what happens to the body, the soul is not affected. That you can burn the body, you can dry it, you can moisten it, but the soul doesn't get burnt or dried or moistened. Now, after that, then Krishna explains that even if you don't accept this philosophy, you're simply on the platform of sense gratification, still what I'm telling you is best for you. Because you have some idea that you're not this body, because you've been brought up in the Vedic culture. Just so happens we're brought up in the Western culture, where from the beginning of life we're taught the wrong thing. Did your parents tell you we were eternal from the beginning of life? Not, even nowadays, they probably used to say that even the farmers in the fields, because they don't go to school, they know more than people who go to school. That's the problem. Because in school, it's all based upon trying to get an education so you can enjoy your senses more than anyone else. Therefore, the basic principle of education nowadays is not to become liberated from the material concept of life, it's to become absorbed more in the material concept of life. Has something to be proud of. My education, my wealth, my personal beauty, my influence, something to be proud of, that I'm better than others. So that's false prestige, because ultimately, without understanding the equality of the souls, one's idea of becoming better than others is just based on illusion. If you're renting a car, even if you're renting a Mercedes-Benz, it doesn't make you any better than someone who's renting a Volkswagen. You can't say, I'm a Mercedes, bow down to me. No, after you use up your money, you may become a Volkswagen yourself. You may have to drive one. Therefore, this idea that Krishna tells Arjuna, fight, because if you die, you'll go to the heavenly planets, and if you win, you get to enjoy the earthly kingdom. So either way, you're going to be benefited by fighting. And if you don't fight, then people will criticize you. You'll go to the forest thinking you did a good job. Ultimately, Krishna will say they're all going to die anyhow, whether you fight or not, and you'll simply be stuck in the forest with the deer, the tigers. And what are you going to do there? Eat the leaves that fall from the trees? You think I'm a good person? No, Krishna says, no. At least you should do your duty. And now he's going to explain Sankhya philosophy. If you understand you're eternal, then you shouldn't worry about what's going to happen in the material world, the results of your work. Because none of the results are ultimately going to belong to you anyhow. And even if you thought they belonged to you, they're all temporary. They're all just like results you get in a dream. They're exactly like that. They come and go. So why be attached to them? Why not become attached to realizing you're eternal? And ultimately beyond that, there's a person who's controlling the whole thing. So use your intelligence to work for the person who's controlling everything, so you get out of the unfortunate position of stealing from him and therefore getting arrested by the illusory energy and being placed in a material concept of life where you suffer material bodily pains and pleasures temporarily, and then have to take birth again and again, and then have to die, go through the same thing again and again with no progress. Why not accept your real purpose of life and utilize whatever you have in the service of the person who's actually the proprietor, and therefore not get entangled by the illusory energy? So Krishna will explain that in this chapter of Karma Yoga, that that's better than even gaining victory or going to the heavenly planets. Getting free from the bodily concept of life is by working as simply an instrument or as a servant for the Supreme Lord is the best way you could actually benefit yourself. And such activities are permanent. And therefore, even if you're not successful in this lifetime, they'll add up and eventually you'll become successful. And not only you'll realize simultaneously that you're not your body, but you'll realize the eternal relation with Krishna. And you'll realize that everyone has a relation with Krishna. Therefore, and that's the most desirable thing. Everything else, in terms of gain and loss in the material world, is pretty useless. Because whatever you gain, you're going to lose. And you can't, and if you may lose everything, but eventually you'll get things back anyhow. So you're just gaining and losing all the time and getting all disturbed about it. But if you realize you're eternal, then there's nothing to be disturbed about. And if you realize you're not the proprietor, then you can't lose anything or gain anything, because nothing could ever belong to anything in this world. It's all Paramatma's, it all belongs to Paramatma, it all belongs to Krishna, and he's making all the arrangements for you, according to what you deserve and desire. So you're not even independent in what you have. It's all coming from Krishna. All you can do is desire either to do the right thing or the wrong thing. If you do the right thing, then you get free from material conceptions of life. And if you do the wrong thing, you get more entangled in the material world. So that's your choice. Either you can live here fighting to do the impossible, to become the supreme, or you can go back. You can accept that Krishna is supreme and work for him, and therefore benefit yourself and everyone else in the real sense of the term. Help everyone realize that they're eternal. Now, if you don't do it, it's all right. Eventually, someone else will come along and help them, because everyone is eternal. It's not you make them eternal, they're already eternal. All you can do is do something beneficial for them to help them realize it, that they're Krishna's eternal servants. And if you don't do it, it's all right. Krishna will make arrangements for some sincere souls to find out about it. But you can take the credit, as Krishna tells Arjuna. You can act as my instrument, and therefore be helpful to yourself and for others, and you can take the credit, whatever that's worth. At least you can take the satisfaction that you're doing good to others, that you're developing a positive relationship with everyone by doing that. And if you don't do that, your positive relation with anyone is only temporary, just as your animosity towards anyone is temporary. It's all mixed up in the material concept. But real helpful to people is to help them realize their eternal relation with Krishna. And that's all you have to do. That's all any of us have to do. And then we'll realize that we're eternal and we have an eternal relation with Krishna by doing that, because that is our relation with Krishna, to do that. Krishna doesn't want us to do anything else. He doesn't care if you're fat or thin or old or young or big or small. He just wants to see we're trying to use our energies to help others realize that they're Krishna's eternal servant. And that's the way we should act, as Krishna's eternal servant. Simply glorify Krishna in the temple, outside the temple, serve Krishna in the temple, serve Krishna outside the temple, and then we'll get perfection in life. Without desiring that I got to get this and I got to get that, because that's business. That's not service. It's not devotional service. But the fact is, if we do that and Krishna reveals himself and we realize how blissful it is to be in Krishna's and his association, when we actually experience transcendental happiness and love in association with Krishna, then all these other gains and losses will seem tuchava, insignificant. Like Dhruva Maharaj, trying to get a kingdom greater than that of his great-grandfather, Lord Brahma. But when he saw Krishna and he was in ecstasy, then he thought, well, I was looking for some broken pieces of glass, but now I found a diamond like you. And therefore we don't have to worry about everything that's going on in the world nowadays, because somehow or another people are being influenced to think that they're responsible for everything that goes on. The only thing we're responsible for is that we try to do something what Krishna wants us to do. That's all we're responsible for. Whoever wins this election, whoever does this or that, who's ever planning to take over the universe, it's usually not our business, because we can't do much about it. All we can do is chant Hare Krishna and try to do some service to Krishna, tell others about Krishna. And if that's effective, then maybe some change in the world might be there. And maybe it won't in our lifetime. But that's all right. If we go back to the spiritual world, maybe they'll send us some SMS about how how the golden age took place in 5,000 years after it was in full force, 5,000 years after we went back to the spiritual world. In any case, Krishna has set up the universe in such a way as that some people will progress towards going back to the spiritual world, with or without our help. But if we try to do something to help, that's for our benefit ultimately. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Simple, We could try and make it complicated and confuse everyone, then we get more questions. But that's all right. We have to go to sleep soon. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.